Karina Islas. She's a program coordinator for the Homeless Services Division. Thank you so much for being here and for joining us. And we'll all stand and wait to get started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Karina. And as Karina's walking away, she's part of the groups that go out into the community when people are talking about getting services to people who are unhoused. She's part of that really amazing group. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. And then we have the land acknowledgement is going to be offered by Danny Howe, who's the director of the Ernest House and the Howe Project.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Danny Howe. This is my wife, Jessica. We're the founders of the Ernest House LLC, which is a transitional agency for men and women coming out of incarceration, substance abuse issues, or facing homelessness. We've been in business for about 7 years now. We've eliminated a little over 80,000 individual nights of homelessness since we opened our doors here in Pima County. And we currently have or have had houses in all of your guys' districts. So we've affected your guys' community members in a positive way. Recently, we started working with Pima Animal Care and actually started fostering dogs, putting them on our properties, which has been beneficial for our clients and the dogs as well. So we're not just helping the humans, but the furry ones as well. Anything?
You nailed it.
So on behalf of Pima County residents, we honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of this land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the multi-millennial presence of the Pasquayaki tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive toward building equal partner relationships with Arizona's tribal nations.
Thank you so much for being here and for all the work that you're doing to help make our community better. Really appreciate you. Thank you. And we have pause for pause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaylee. I'm the Public Information Officer at Pima Animal Care Center, and this is Dottie. Dottie is, if you can't see her, she's a big, beautiful healer mix. She's about a year old, so kind of just a big puppy. She's the perfect stage to take home. She is one of 493 dogs that we have at the shelter, which sounds like a whole lot, and it is, but we're actually really happy today. We had a really successful adoption event over the weekend. We sent over 100 animals home, most of those dogs. So while we still have a long ways to go, we're happy to be making steps in the right direction for bringing that population down. We also have about 100 cats, of course, and while we're looking for adopters, right now all pets are free to adopt. We're of course looking for fosters, so if you can even do 2 weeks or you know what, even as short as a night, we are happy to have you. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and that's great news. So if it's okay with my colleagues in the audience, we have a lot of really amazing employees that we want to acknowledge, and I want to be able to take our time to do it. And so I'd like to get to the proclamations, and then we'll do round up for recognition for all of our employees. So
Yes. For the record, Supervisor Hines has joined the meeting.
Okay,
remotely.
thank you. Good morning, Supervisor Hines. So item number 6, so we'll skip 5 for now. We'll go to 6. This is the presentation of proclamation to Nicole Olvera, Community Outreach Coordinator, Arizona Division of Child Support Services, proclaiming the month of August 2024 to be Child Support Awareness Month. I'll go ahead and move that item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, item passes unanimously, and Supervisor Lee will be reading that proclamation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, please, and you can, well, that's great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Whereas Pima County reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Arizona's families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas the state of Arizona will always be committed advocates for our children whose safety and security remain top of mind. And whereas a child who receives emotional and financial support is more likely to feel safe and secure and is better equipped with the courage to be their very best in life. And whereas, excuse me, the Department of Economic Security Division of Child Support Services, DCSS, is robustly committed to putting Arizona's children first and to humbly serving Arizonans with excellence, respect, integrity, and kindness, as well as being an overall champion for economic growth and opportunity. And whereas DCSS strongly advocates for parenting responsibilities because parents and children benefit when both are engaged with their child at every stage, regardless of marital status. And whereas DCSS recognizes the commitment of legal guardians who accept responsibilities of children in the absence of parents. And whereas strengthening individuals and families with an emphasis on fiscal responsibility promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's future. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month values parents' involvement in their children's lives and those who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of August 2024 to be Child Support Awareness Month. Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Olvera, and I am the liaison for Southern Arizona for Child Support Services. And I just want to thank Pima County for your continuous support and for recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
We're going to take a photo.
Thank you. Item 7 is a presentation and proclamation to Christy Diaz-Tron, Recreation Division Manager, Grant Burkett, Recreation Superintendent, Pima County Parks and Resources, Jody Layton, Board Member, Drowning Prevention Coalition of Arizona, Lauren Dinyar, I'm sorry if I'm butchering last names, Environmental Health Program Manager, and Nicholas Ramirez, Environmental Health Supervisor, Pima County Health Department, proclaiming the month of August 2024 to be Drowning Impact Awareness Month. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously, and Supervisor Christie will be presenting this proclamation.
Good morning, everyone. Shall I give this? This has a special personal meaning to me to present this proclamation many years ago now, when my middle daughter was just a little bit more than a toddler. I was working one morning around our pool area inside the gate. And she joined me, and I thought, okay, fine, I'll keep an eye on her. And our great big dog joined us. And I'm working away in the yard, and all of a sudden, I noticed how quiet it got. And I turned around and I looked in the pool, and my daughter was about 4 feet down, treading like that. And I jumped in, got underneath her, and shoved her out. But I think in addition to the panic feeling that a parent has when a child is in the pool like that, I think the sense of everything being so quiet, just the quietness. And I think that's the issue that we're trying to make aware today with this proclamation, is to keep your eye on your kids. And when it gets quiet, you know something's wrong. Whereas America's future prosperity depends on the long-term health, safety, and well-being of the nearly 2 million children and teens in our state, and whereas drowning is a leading cause of injury and death for children and teens in Arizona, affecting not only the victims, but also families, emergency personnel, and our society as a whole. And whereas child drownings are nearly 100% preventable, and whereas research-proven strategies, including constant and capable supervision, restricting access to water, use of life jackets, swimming lessons for adults and children, and rapid emergency response, including CPR, can save lives. And whereas whereas awareness of the problem is just the first step, and evidence-based programs to bring these strategies to families is the best way to save lives. And whereas during the month of August, the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Arizona, in collaboration with state and local governments, community organizations, and private citizens, will be engaging communities throughout Arizona in a coordinated and comprehensive response. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of August 2024 to be Drowning Impact Awareness Month, and urges all communities and citizens of Arizona to participate in efforts to reduce drowning risks, strengthen families, and protect children and teens. Passed and adopted this 13th day of August 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie, and all supervisors to have us here today. I also work for Pima County Parks and Recreation. I'm the Aquatics Program Manager. My name is Jody Layton, but today I'm wearing my Drowning Prevention Coalition hat as well. We thank you all for being here and hearing us out. Drowning is still such a huge thing that we can prevent. It's been a very, very rough summer this summer. We've been fortunate in Pima County that we've only had one fatality, which is one too many, but the state of Arizona has seen a huge increase. So we just implore you to get the message out there. If you have pools, you're with your family, your friends, you're at lakes, make sure somebody has eyes on the kids, just as Supervisor Christie mentioned. And we really appreciate the partnership this year with the Pima County Health Department, that we're trying to work together to get that messaging out to our pool operators too, about fences and gates and safety when they're out operating pools. So we really appreciate the support that we get every year from Pima County. Thank you so much.
Sure. My name is Nicolas Ramirez. I'm with the Pima County Health Department. I work for Consumer Health and Food Safety. We've been working diligently with our partners, with Jody and the Drowning Coalition. We've also been working with pool companies, economy pool, patio pools, trying to find ways how we can get the word out there to prevent drowning, getting that information out, possibly getting swim lessons out there to help prevent that drowning. It is 100% preventable. Like you said, it's the silent killer. It only takes a few seconds. Consumer Health and Food Safety, the Health Department, we've been working diligently. There's three main things we're working on right now is our pool code. We're looking at amending our pool code for entrapment, suction to drain covers, looking at getting more enforcement on the drain covers. We're also building collaboration, Drowning Coalition, other community members. And then one of the other big ones, we're working on emergency response with our fire jurisdictions. Typically, when there's a drowning, we're unaware of the drownings that are occurring. So we're looking for staff to respond also when there's a drowning, because there still could be deficiencies at a pool. We usually find out about it a couple of days later, and then we respond out there. So those are three major agendas, items that we're looking at to implement at Consumer Health and Food Safety with the Pima County Health Department. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation of proclamation to Daniel Contreras and Gregorio Contreras proclaiming the day of Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 to be Daniel El Güero Canelo Contreras Day. I will move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And he's here. Yay. And I get to give him proclamation. I'm very excited about it. Those of you who don't know Güero Canelo, I don't know where you've been. He's iconic, his voice, his likeness, all of it. And so we're here to give him thanks. And so I will go down and read the proclamation while he's coming up. Gregorio. Okay. All right. So whereas the Spanish campaign for Pima Animal Care Center aims to increase awareness, education, and community involvement in animal welfare among the Spanish-speaking residents of Pima County, and whereas this campaign is funded by Friends of PAC, which is crucial for ensuring that all members of the community have access to resources, information about animal care, promoting the well-being of humane treatment of animals, and whereas a small business play a crucial role in creating positive change within our community by fostering local economic growth, providing employment opportunities, and supporting community initiatives. And whereas Daniel Contreras, known as El Güero Canelo, has been a dedicated supporter and partner with Pima Animal Care Center. And whereas Mr. Contreras has actively participated in outreach events, donated resources, and used his influence to encourage community engagement and support for the campaign, improving PAC's ability to serve and protect animals in our community. And whereas through his generous contributions and unwavering support, Mr. Contreras has significantly impacted the Spanish-speaking community by partnering with PAC to promote well-being and humane treatment of animals. And whereas his partnership has enhanced the Spanish campaign for Pima Animal Care Center and increased awareness, education, and community involvement in animal care, contributing to more compassionate and informed society. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 to be Daniel El Güero Canelo Day, El Güero Canelo Contreras Day, for his outstanding support, partnership, and contributions to the Spanish campaign for Pima Animal Care Center, and expresses his deepest gratitude for his dedication to the people and pets of Pima County, passed and adopted this 13th day of August 2024. ¿Quieres hablar? ¿Decir algo?
Poquito, porque luego lloro. Muchas gracias, PAC. Hicimos un gran equipo. Espero que hayamos llenado nuestras expectativas. I expect we fully up all the expectations we have from each other. I thought I was, and it was great working with you guys. I mean it, you know. Gregorio, my son, and the 100 employees we have, they work together with them. I work together with Merino, and where's the other guy? And these 4 guys over here, and I'm missing another guy. And we make a great team, and we'll be there for anything else. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tucson. Gracias, Tucson. Gracias.
Okay.
Laura O'Brien with Friends of Pima Animal Care Center. Speaking on behalf of our team, our village, we couldn't be more grateful for our partnership and what you've done for the pets in Pima County and their people. A big thank you.
Thank you.
If any of you have been into Güero Canelo, you walk in and there's a huge flag with him encouraging you to get involved. When you buy your food, for every hot dog, you get like a free card to go in. I mean, he was very involved in this campaign, really incredibly critical, and all of the partnerships have been very helpful. Did you want to speak any more on any of it? Anybody? Okay, go.
Hi, I'm JJ Johnson on behalf of Pima Animal Care Center. We'd like to extend our greatest appreciation and gratitude for your partnership with our community and with its pets. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
¿Queremos tomar una? Thank you. Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. I just want to acknowledge Jose Merino from the Comms Department. He didn't want to speak, but I know that he and his colleagues and Mark Evans, they very much supported this effort. And I think, Jose, you're the brainchild, because I remember when he met with us, he told us which zip codes had the most specifically dogs that had been lost and not returned. And I think, is that correct, Jose? Around there. Anyway, he picked the zip codes or they did research on that, and there was a big campaign. So I want to make sure everyone knows how important your role was. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. I think this really highlights the opportunities that we have in working with our small business community to really amplify a message. I don't know anyone who was a better spokesperson, and I don't know that that was a natural connection until you all started talking. So we love it. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, next we have on the addendum a presentation or proclamation to Kelly Ireland, former co-lead Be Smart program with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, proclaiming the week of August 26th through August 30th, 2024 to be Smart Week in Pima County. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item passes unanimously. Supervisor Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have leaders in our community to accept this proclamation, but they are leaders because of experiences that they or their family members had or people in our community had that we wouldn't wish on anybody else. These are people who have either been victims of gun violence themselves or family members have been victims of gun violence, or in the case of Ms. Maish, helped to prevent further acts of gun violence. We're very grateful to have them with us today. They are all active in Moms Demand Action. But what we are talking about today is an educational effort by the Moms Demand Action group dealing with safe storage of firearms. Many of us have heard too many instances, especially those of us who worked with children in our public schools, of kids getting a hold of a firearm that wasn't safely stored and either injuring or killing themselves or a friend or family member. And that's what this proclamation addresses. So I'm going to read it and then offer our guests an opportunity to share any words they want to share. Whereas Smart Week is a program developed by the Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund to keep communities safe, raise awareness, and promote efforts to educate the public about secure gun storage. And whereas guns are the #1 killer of children and teens in the United States, with a child unintentionally killing or injuring themselves or someone in the United States almost every day. And whereas Pima County is committed to creating a safe environment contributing to the safety and well-being of our children, and whereas an estimated 54% of gun owners don't lock all of their guns securely, and an estimated 4.6 million children live in a home with at least one unlocked and loaded gun in the United States, and whereas research shows that one of the best ways to protect children and teens from accessing guns is to implement secure firearm storage practices by ensuring all guns are stored unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. And whereas the Board of Supervisors proudly joins local schools, hospitals, state agencies, and community organizations who are equally committed to reducing injuries and deaths by promoting secure gun storage and safety. And I want to acknowledge the County Attorney's Office and also the Health Department for what they're doing to get gun locks out into our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the week of August 26 through August 30, 2024, to be Smart Week in Pima County, and urges all citizens of Pima County to make every effort to secure and store guns and protect children and teens from firearms violence. Say something, Kelly?
If I may.
You may, absolutely.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and thanks for hearing us out. And thanks for being here this morning. The smartest thing that people can do is to secure guns to prevent unnecessary deaths. I'm sorry. SMART is an acronym that we use. The S is for secure your weapons, meaning lock them up, store the ammunition separately, or put it in a gun safe where it's inaccessible and children can't get to it. The M is for model safe behavior around guns. In other words, don't leave them lying around on the coffee table. They need to be locked up and safely stored. The A is one of the most important parts of the acronym. The A stands for ask. Ask when your children go to visit someone else's home if they keep firearms in the home, and if they do, are they properly stored? And if the people say they are properly stored, ask if that means they are locked up, because sometimes people think properly stored means in dad's underwear drawer, under the mattress, under the pillow, in the closet, up high where the kids can't find them. And people will often tell you, our kids don't know where our guns are. And the kids always know where the guns are. You did, I did, when we were growing up. So please make it an adult's responsibility, not a child's responsibility. Ask when your kid goes to see someone else, even family members. And the R is to recognize signs for teen suicides. The T is to tell people about our program, Be Smart. And I do want to thank Laura Conover's office for supplying us endlessly with gun locks. We have given thousands and thousands of gun locks out over the years. About 76% of school shooters are by kids who got guns in their homes or the homes of a relative. About 360 toddlers are killed every year because they access a gun that hasn't been locked up. Locking up guns in your home is great, but you also need to lock them up in your car. And that doesn't mean putting them in a glove box, a gun rack. They need to be locked up and in a gun safe. Finally, if you're interested, you can text 64433 and enter SMART, and more information can be sent to you about Be Smart. You can also look on Instagram, besmartforkids.org, and also besmart.org for more information if you are interested. Thank you so much.
One of the things I've discovered in my activism for preventing gun violence is to be more accurate in how things are described. So when they say accident, my mind goes to incident of irresponsible gun ownership. There's not very many real accidents. They're actually irresponsible. And that's what Be Smart is trying to convey to people, is that your child doesn't have to die of an accident or of suicide. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I inadvertently missed the agenda adjustments. So can I go ahead and pass that to you, Melissa, so you can let us know what has changed on our published agenda, please?
Sure. On the regular agenda, page 2, item 5, this is the presentation for the We Are Gems. There's a correction to 2 employees' departments. Kelsey Landerville is under Conservation Lands and Resources, and Luis Leon, Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation, has changed to Parks and Recreation. On page 4, item 18, this is under Board of Supervisors, the 2024 primary and general election. This item will be heard at a time certain of 11 a.m. On page 5, item 21, under County Administrator, it is the presentation by Planning, Design, and Construction Department. This item will be heard at a time certain of 10 a.m. On page 7, item 27, it is a contract under procurement. It is MAPO 24233. There's a correction. The annual award amount does not include sales tax. On the addendum, page 1, item 2, the executive session regarding an update on federal investigation. This item will be heard at a time certain of 11:30 a.m. On page 1, item 3, it's an executive session, and page 1, item 6, under County Attorney. This is regarding a proposed settlement relating to the Broadway Pantano landfill. The County Attorney's Office requests these items be removed from the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no objections, we're going to go ahead and incorporate those changes. And now I get to turn it over to Administrator Lesher, who's going to be doing a presentation in the recognition of the We Are Gems quarterly recipients.
Thank you. And if I could have the board
Yes,
join us as
absolutely.
well. This is recognizing the employees. Thank you. And our deputy county administrators. Thank you. We provide any number of services to the people of this county, and we do it only because we have an incredible group of employees who provide those services. And so we like to take some time each quarter and recognize some of the exceptional work that has been done by some individuals. We call these the We Are Gems. The ARE is really the foundation of what we believe in here at Pima County. We are accountable, respectful, and ethical. And people from around the county nominate colleagues. There's an organization and a committee that reviews those applicants, and then people are recognized to be acknowledged today. Excuse me. So I will be acknowledging a couple of the people who are in the departments with which I work more directly, and then we'll turn it over to others to do the next round of this. And excuse me, everything keeps blooming. Forgive me. And I would say, if you would like to come up when I call your name, and anyone from your department you want to bring up, bring them on. And anybody else from any other department, I guess, bring them on up, because we have family. Your family is here for many of you, I know. And we're going to start with, thank you, Supervisor, Veronica Bustamante from the Finance and Risk Department. Thank you. When a mix-up with a county vendor led to what could have been significant problems for multiple departments, Veronica Bustamante jumped in to resolve the issues. Veronica works with various departments to understand their specific needs and guide them through complex payment issues with professionalism and adept problem-solving skills. Thank you so much, Veronica, for everything you do. Thank you. Thank you. And here you go, please. Thank you. And I'm going to, if I may, ask everyone to please stay with us a moment, because at the end, we'll be sure to get some pictures with everyone. So thank you. Anthony Gemino. Anthony is with our communications department. He is a communications coordinator, a former sports writer. He has been the perfect utility infielder for county communications. Since joining the county in 2020, he has pivoted. Did you write that?
I did not write that.
Okay. Since joining the county in 2020, he has pivoted from handling communications for community workforce development to leading the health team with the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, to most recently jumping in to assist with communications needs around the 24 primary and general elections. Anthony Gemino, thank you. And here you go. Wait. Get your goodies. There you go. Thank you. Please stay. And now we are Mr. Holmes.
Good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of recognizing one of our employees from our IT department. Yay, IT, everyone. Yeah, very good. We got David Schaefer. David's part of our GIS analyst from IT. When the Office of Digital Inclusion needed to convert a text-heavy web page to something more interactive, David Schaefer jumped on the job using the ArcGIS story map platform. His creative thinking and excellent listening skills helped him implement the best solution for everyone. Thank you, David. I heard you're a former teacher, right?
Yeah.
Teacher, hey, good. Where are the teachers? He gets double applause for your work. Thank you for all your, thank you, appreciate you. Thank you, here you go.
I know you're right. Just sneak on in with it. Oh, yeah.
We have, I think
I
we have Public Works.
Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hi, county employees. Welcome also. Kelly Landreville. Kelly, you want to come up and join? Hi. Oh, I apologize, Kelsey. My apologies. So Kelsey is with our Conservation Lands and Resources Department. And in the space of a few months, Kelsey moved offices, began working under a new department and a new director, but never missed a beat. Indeed, she took on a particularly large project to clean up open space properties at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Thank you. Which has been the site of illegal dumping of debris and kept the project moving forward despite obstacles. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Luis Leon, Parks and Recreation. Morning, Luis. How are you? Welcome. Thank you. Congratulations. Luis oversees the trade functions for 96 playgrounds, 94 ramadas, 9 pools and community centers, 3 splash pads, and 106 sports fields. That's huge, right? Quite a task, and he did so without missing a beat, handling everything from replacing the rims on basketball courts to resetting hardware on swing sets to surfacing and repainting equestrian assets. Thank you so much, Luis. Congratulations. Then Celia Turner. Good morning. So Celia is with Real Property Services, and before that, Development Services, right? Real property may be a small department, but it has a large workload. And thanks to Celia, that work gets processed quickly and efficiently. Celia is always respectful with constituents, asking them questions so she can direct them to the proper person in the office. Thank you so much.
Buenos dias, good morning. Hey, so now it's time to recognize some folks from our units. First of all is Amy Kenneyer. Amy oversees our laboratories across 4 different clinics. That's the TB clinic, that's the T-Lee clinic, the Prince clinic, as well as our Eastside clinic. This is a complex operation. She's only been with us for the last 2 years, and this was really kind of a new role for her. So I'm super duper excited that we have her as part of our health department team. Thank you, Ms. Amy.
Thank you.
And then from our library, Ms. Vanessa Valencia. Vanessa. So Vanessa has been with the library for the last 5 years. She is probably the first person that new employees meet. She's probably the person that many employees on some of their hardest days have to interact with. She does so with grace and professionalism, and I'm very thankful to have her as part of our library team. Gracias, Vanessa.
About to move into the Braille part of the presentation. Need my glasses back. Yes, sir. Thank you. The next is an individual from the assessor's office. And unfortunately, our assessor, Suzanne Druby, could not be here today and asked that I would please present this to Barbara Gonzalez. Barbara. "28 years of service with the assessor's office." Thank you. Come on. Barbara Gonzalez leads the front office counter staff for the assessor's office and ensures every property owner gets the assistance they need. She is respectful and courteous with both constituents and serving as a key resource for newer staff members. Thank you so much for all you do. And here you go. Thank you. Thank you. The next is an individual from the Sheriff's Department. Do we have someone here from the Sheriff's Department to present? Come on up. Okay. Introduce yourself and go ahead. There's the award. Thank you so much.
Hi, all.
Hi.
I'm Lieutenant Brett Bernstein with the Sheriff's Department, and I'd like to introduce Marisa Samaniego. I've had the privilege of working alongside Marisa for the last 3 years, and she impresses me every day. She coordinates our off-duty program, which, our community and our government needs. As a coordinator, she oversees over 230 deputies, all of their payroll, and over $1 million a year moves through that payroll between administrative fees and deputy checks. It's a very difficult job. We'd much rather there be 10 people to do it, but Marisa does it all by herself. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in recognizing this incredible. We've asked if we could do a quick group picture, and then if you could go out to the lobby for a moment along with our photographers, we'll get a little bit of picture out there. So give us just a moment to honor these incredible people. Those of you who are here to support any of these folks, why don't you come on out in the lobby and join us for that photo as well. So thank you. And then back to and then there you go, and be eligible for an award next time if you go. Thank you very much.
How do you want them?
Where do you want us? Right in front, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me have everybody with the plaque up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Any shorties can stand in front of me? Yeah.
I'm always in the front. Always in the
Got it? Trying to train new people. It's very stressful. You know, it's like everybody's like, it takes her 2 seconds. It took me like, I don't know, all day.
Wow.
Communicating with another person,
Mhm.
like not in my Mama, my eye. My eye can fall off. All right. Okay. Thank you, and thank you to all of our employees who are doing just amazing work. We're so glad to be able to recognize and honor the gems in our district. Now we're on to the call to the public. We have 11 speakers, and so every speaker will have 3 minutes. Individuals, like citizens attending the meeting, shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the board may be removed by the sergeant at arms if directed by the chair. Such person may be barred from further audience before the board. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping of feet, whistling, yells, or similar demonstrations shall not be permitted by the chair, who may direct offenders from the hearing room. With that, I have Dave Smith, Alan Young, and John Budinsky. Oh, yay. Thank you. Okay. Feel free to come on up. And if I've called your name, you're welcome to come and sit in any of the front row. Right?
All right, gang. This is the first time I've been first. I know, this is wild. Wow. All right. Okay, start the timer. Here we go. Good morning, everybody here. This is one of the things, we just had our primary. One of the questions that comes up is how we're going to ensure, reliability and confidence in the election. I've talked before, and I'm not kidding about this. This is something we really need to take seriously, because it behooves every party, whether you're a Green or you're a no labels, or you're a Republican or Democrat. The confidence in our electoral process is so critically important. And the thing that we have to do, I think, as a group, not just as parties, is ensure that we have a process that's more visible. One of the questions, of course, is the machines. Are they hackable? Yes, they're hackable, and we see that over and over again. No one addresses that. And if you bring it up, quite frankly, one of the weird things is, as a law enforcement retired law enforcement guy, is, if I have reasonable suspicion, I start an investigation. And the people are full of his suspicion, but there's no investigation. And this is the kind of thing where if we just start labeling people conspiracy theorists or other things, then we don't get, all we do is raise suspicion and build tension and agitation. So one of the things I think we should do is when we're talking to our electoral people, the elections department, and we're talking to the recorder's office, these things is, number one, we've got to make sure that we have a process we trust. We have to make sure that we have proper security. And I went to the logic and accuracy test, and I saw that the doors were sealed. But the problem is, it's only half the area is secured, so the other half is not. But one of the questions too that comes up is we're not allowed to have observers in the early election part. And I understand that statutorily, because now it's in the recorders instead of the elections department, that seems to be a statutorial failing. And a lot of people listening here won't understand this. But we're required to have observers from both opposing parties during elections. But during the early election process, it's run by the recorders. Therefore, they're not required to do that. Ironically, Maricopa has agreed to let us have observers, and from both parties. But the last remaining county that has failed to acknowledge that is again Pima County. So what I challenge y'all to think about is how we can do that process more transparently, how we can as a group, because this is one of the things I talk about. We're in a day and age of great tension and polarization. To limit that and mitigate that kind of anxiety and tension, we have to have transparency. We have to have confidence. And going forward now, the primary, we had our people in place. So we're going to have people in place for the general. But I ask you all to think about this. Again, this is your responsibility. You're the people in charge of the process. So I think you should look and talk to them about having those observers in the early election process in the primary, in the general, and make sure we have that transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Young?
Good morning. My name is Alan Young. I'm a resident of Pima County. I appeared before the Board of Supervisors meeting last month to address a concern for the upkeep and vandalism at the Veterans Memorial and the condition of the flags at the Kino Korean War Memorial. At the conclusion of the call to the public, I believe that there was a question about an agenda item at this meeting. I did not see anything on the agenda to address any follow-up to those concerns. I have noticed since then that the landscaping at the Memorial Park has been cleaned up and the flags at the Korean Memorial were replaced almost immediately. I would like to thank the county for doing that, the quick response. I was contacted last Friday by local media to do an on-camera interview concerning the vandalism. It was at that time that I was informed that similar vandalism had occurred to the service medallions at the Kino Memorial location at Kino Sports Park. The situation only seems to have gotten worse at that point. When the interview aired, a reference was made to a memo issued by the county in response to these incidents. I have not personally seen that memo and was hoping to get a copy to share with the veterans community. And I was told this morning how I can obtain that. I would just like to ask if there's a way that we can be kept informed of the county's intentions and actions going forward in these situations. As I indicated prior, our veterans community and organizations remain interested and willing to assist with any get well plan that the county may intend to do, to include the possibility of incorporating a veterans memorial into the Mosaic Quarter project being planned by the county. Thank you for your consideration. Hope to hear from you.
Thank you. John Budzinski, followed by Tim Locks, Jim Hanley, and Roland Baker.
Good morning. My name is John Budzinski, and I'm an employee with the Pima County IT Department. It's been nearly a year since the Pima County wage comparison study was completed, and during that process, many of my colleagues in IT had their wages titles misclassified. At that time, I asked my teammates that were misclassified to file individual appeals. Those individual appeals were submitted on time and well within the 30-day window that we were instructed to adhere to. Since then, I have seen some of the responses on the appeals to my immediate team members, and they all say tentatively approved. I understand that the processing of these appeals was delayed due to a department-wide appeal submitted by my director. And I can't fault him for seeing that there was a larger issue that needed to be addressed and capitalizing on the opportunity when it was presented to him. And I understand with that extra level of that department-wide appeal that there was a added complexity to figuring out the status of these appeals. But it has been 10 months since those initial individual appeals were submitted. I'm here today to respectfully ask the board help me in making sure that our technical professionals know that they are valued and making sure that the department-wide appeal will be completed as soon as possible and fairly. For waiting this long, it is only fair that those appealing have the 75-25 formula reapplied to their new wage grades and get all the back pay that they should, stemming back to the fourth quarter of 2023, just like their fellow employees did from other departments that submitted those same individual appeal forms. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by some teammates that form a nucleus of fantastic IT professionals that are top tier in the nation. And what's more important is that a lot of those individuals are motivated by doing great work for their community. I believe we have a tremendous opportunity here to keep a number of these highly skilled employees working for Pima County for many years to come and keep pace with the rapid rate of advancement in technology and securing that technology for Pima County's future. If we can just make sure they're treated fairly by this process. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Tim Locks?
Good morning, Adelita. After the last meeting,
where we had 10 speakers speaking about election integrity, you approached me, suggested that 10 speakers was a little over the top, and I kind of agreed with you. You said it took 30 minutes. Okay, first, it did not take 30 minutes. It took 22 minutes. As you recall, it was you and Rex Scott that reduced our time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. You can't deny that. Had you left the entire matter alone, we would have only needed 6 speakers because we would have cut our content down, totaling 18 minutes. But in typical fashion, as Democrats do, you create the problem, and then when we find a way around it, you start complaining and whining about it. We know you don't care about election integrity, and we know you don't care about your constituents. Fact is, 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes. Today we got lucky. We come here, we listen to land acknowledgement, pause for pause, and the endless list of proclamations and awards this board produces that last well over 30 minutes and on occasion over an hour. I just thought I'd point out the hypocrisy. Last meeting, we presented a good deal of material that clearly shows recorder maladministration. Now we have even more. It's now spread over onto the election side with ballot processing. Here's a list of workers on the election side. Many of these people are PNDs, INDs, and we know of 2 of them that have switched parties this year, either before the PPE or the primary. There is ARS statute regarding people switching parties, by the way. And I will further say party is the key word here. IND and PND are not parties. It seems as Constance Hargrove is engaging in the same, let's just use Democrats and throw in a token Republican here and there approach. We have Constance on record stating that there is no opposite party to PND and IND. Why is she using them? On the live feed page, it says two-person rule. To prevent the possibility of illegal manipulation of voted ballots, anytime voted ballots are not in a sealed container, they shall be in the presence of no fewer than 2 observers from different political parties. Again, IND and PND are not recognized parties in the state of Arizona. Why are they being allowed to use? Same thing with the county recorder. Additionally, the 2-person rule is extended to operations in the tabulation room. Once again, cut the crap, guys.
Thank you. Jim Hanley? After Roland Baker, Susan Kelly, and Gisela Aaron.
Good morning, Supervisors, County Administrator. My name is Jim Hanley. I live at 900 North Ritchie Boulevard. I'm here to talk about the heat ordinance that you'll be taking up next week, I believe. I'm here to speak in favor of that. I was born and raised in Tucson, and I have a lot of experience working outdoors in this county. I've worked from the time I was 17 years old, putting up awnings and metal sheds for with my neighbor. I worked as a nurseryman. I worked on road gangs, putting streets in Green Valley in the summertime. I put in sewer lines before, and I worked at a Sarco mission unit as a miner for 5 years. And in all these jobs, I want to say that it depends on the employer, how you're treated, and whether your safety, not just your comfort I'm talking about, but your safety regarding exposure to heat is considered. Some employers are very conscientious. They make sure that you have water available, that you have sufficient break time to cool off, that you and that you have some shade available to cool off. the best experience that I had in this regard was when I worked at the mines. It's a very hot place to work. There's a lot of outdoor activity. And while I was there, I was the Health and Safety Committee Chairman for United Steelworkers Local 6705. And so I was privy to and interested in federal regulations regarding health and safety. While I was there, the Mine Safety Health Administration issued a paper that was called Heat Stress in Mining. There was a lot of considerations for it and guidelines for mining companies in that. So I want to talk about the ordinance. We need to make sure that Pima County employees are specifically mentioned in this ordinance. We need to have specific enforcement procedures for this, for reporting violations. We need to make sure that whistleblowers do not have adverse consequences by their supervisors when they're complaining about heat. We need to have an advisory panel to ensure compliance and accountability with this ordinance. And I want to mention that Attorney General Chris Mays is supporting this. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Rolanda Baker.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a while. My name is Rolanda Baker, and I live in Pima County, and I live in Supervisor Rick Scott's district. And welcome Chairwoman Adelita Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, Supervisor Lee, Supervisor Matt Hines, wherever you are. And did I miss anyone? I'm here again, like Jim, in favor of the heat ordinance. I'm hoping that next Tuesday, when you vote, that you will vote for this heat ordinance. I'm a 42-year public school teacher, and when we had our students, if it was ever over 100 degrees, the students only stayed out for 15 minutes, and we checked on them. So what we do for students, we need to also do, and especially for adults who are out in this heat and who are in who do the hard work, especially those that do the hard work here in Pima County. We're asking, once you've signed that, before it's signed, that you do three things: that you make sure that the county employees are protected when they call out to say, this is what's going on at my job site and this is what needs to happen. We're requesting that when they do make that violation, that their job is protected, and that an advisory panel is made, and within that advisory panel, hopefully that it will include some of the employees as well as the folks who are the owners. And AG Chris, as Jim already said, but I'll reiterate it, Chris Mays has already made these recommendations, and she has our backing, so hopefully that you will pass that. You know how important this is, and I know that you will pass it. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Susan Kelly? And followed by Gisela Aaron, Shirley Ricard, and Robert Royce.
Hi, Susan Kelly. I live in District 3. I wanted to talk about the time certain discussion topic at 11 o'clock today, the elections. I believe that people are innately good. I don't think any of the people that work in Pima County are of ill intent. It's difficult. In my whole career, I've worked around a lot of really, really dangerous equipment, bombs, missiles, nuclear weapons. And I can tell you that every human cannot possibly see every potential situation that's going to happen. And when we've had failure review boards, in my experience, usually the person that caused the failure, if it was indeed a human error, which it usually was, they didn't do it on purpose, right? So when we think about the election process and everything, let's just try to tighten it up. Let's not blame anybody. It's not anybody's fault. I don't think they're really doing it on purpose. If they are, prosecute. And if you have the data that says they are doing it on purpose, prosecute. But I think they're just trying to do their best, and they just can't see the whole picture. So let's ask our elections director and our recorder, what are you going to do to improve training? What are you going to do to tighten up the process so that we are absolutely following the law? And even if it's not a legal issue, we can convince the public that we are having a very good, solid election and that we've tightened all the loopholes that we can possibly find. We're not going to fix it overnight, but if we can improve it. And I would love, after we're done with this little process right before the election, if we feel confident that we've done everything we can to make it airtight, then I would love to see an email from the Pima County, from Jan Lesher and from the Pima County organization that says, this is what we've done. I get lots of emails about all sorts of other topics, but election integrity is really top of mind right now. Can we continue to do things? Yes. After we're done with this one meeting, there's lots more we can do. But if we continually look at it and look for those loopholes and try to increase the public's awareness and confidence, it will go a long way towards us uniting. Thank you.
Thank you. Gisela Aaron?
Good morning. My name is Gisela Aaron, and I live in District 4. Last month, July 16, during the board meeting, we presented evidence to you of your public records request we've done of the 22 election. We found in certain areas there was no chain of custody of ballot stock, ballot boxes, and no evidence of the two-party rule that it has been followed. Despite that, and not knowing if this primary was also riddled with errors, maladministration, and intentional malfeasance, despite that, yesterday, the Pima County board members have quickly certified the primary election. They didn't wait until today when we have a meeting and maybe get possible answers or hear what is really going on and how we can improve this process. Why doesn't the media report this? We provided evidence to the board. We showed examples to the public. We cited findings and statutes that were violated. And this could have been an easy piece for any reporter. We found severe violations of chain of custody. For example, the elections and recorder staff have recently changed their party affiliation from Democrat to IND or PND, assuming that that satisfies the law. The paperwork that Pima County provided to us, the public records request documents, they revealed that ballot boxes were not picked up daily in remote areas like Ajo, Cells, Toca, and even Mission Library was unstaffed. Librarians didn't sign or anyone there, and the U of A. These unsecure ballot boxes render all elections uncertain as there is ample opportunity for ballot stuffing, thereby disenfranchising all Americans. We found there's no chain of custody between the post office and the recorder during the entire time of early voting. This allows for daily ballot stuffing during the entire early voting process, again, rendering elections in Pima County as unsecure, uncertain, and uncertifiable. We found during early voting, some election sites received unknown and uncounted amounts of ballot stock. When we work elections, we have to checkmark every piece of equipment, every piece of paper. Why isn't the staff of Pima County doing that? Also, there's no working camera in the overnight vault for the voted ballots. The door is protected by a label. Workers have said they forgot to enter a bag with ballots, and so they just peeled back the label, and the key is at the supervisor's desk, and everybody knows where that is. We ask for the public to be able to witness live feeds of the ballot vault and the door to the vault.
Thank you. Shirley Ricard. Followed by Robert Royce, Paul Stapleton Smith, and Sarah Roberts will be our last speaker. Thank you. Go ahead.
Firstly, I'd like to ask, where are the after action reports and the call to the public after your closed session yesterday? I'm sure that it was just an oversight. On the recorder's site, there is no meaningful observation possible. We need observers during early elections and during signature verification. People need to be allowed to come close enough to make a meaningful observation. Without it, their presence is superfluous. Why are there no live feed cameras in the recorder's area? There are lots of remedies to consider. One of the first, purge voter rolls of dead people and those who have relocated. Remove people who have no voting history, quote unquote. There needs to be chain of custody with two parties between post office and ballot processing centers. There needs to be one chain of custody form with two party lines for each handoff at every site. Ballot stock needs to be secured and pre-printed ballots need to be secured for early voting. There needs to be daily pickup of ballot boxes. Other best practices, election day needs to be made a holiday. There should be no early voting except for military and handicapped voters. There needs to be a hand count following the election and results need to be announced publicly. Paper ballots need to be handed to the voter on election day, exclusively with proof of citizenship. Small precinct vote locations with paper voter rolls need to be implemented for one-day balloting. All parts, machines, devices, and software code needs to be labeled "Made in the USA," or machine voting should not be allowed. There needs to be no outsourcing to unconstitutional third-party vendors that use proprietary hardware and software, since third-party vendors are unaccountable to the people. My question to you is all of this, is the fact that you've heard for 2 weeks now and counting what our grievances are and what we believe firmly in our very core needs to be addressed. You are the people that are responsible for this. But once again, you have not failed to disappoint in your failure to deliver and live up to your responsibilities to represent and serve your constituents. We demand better. We demand better. You need to do it. Do your job.
Robert Royce.
Visual aids. Since I have the audacity to circulate a petition to put a new party on the ballot in the city of Tucson, and I have the audacity to insert the name Jefferson on the petition, I should explain myself. I would like to put in my 2 cents as to the state of this election, but first I need to define what federalism is, because most people have not read this book. I'm sure I'm the only one in the room who understands the concept. We have come to the end of the line for this institutional power broker party system. Abraham Lincoln has told me that the principles of Jefferson are the axioms and definitions of a free society. Both parties were founded on these Jeffersonian principles, but you would not know it by the way they have been behaving. Since I was raised in Lincoln land by a politically active mother, I have always taken Lincoln's words seriously when exploring the principles that he referred me to, as I chose to make them my own. My public life began at the age of 9, watching my mother officiate in our voting precinct in 1960. We had 505 Democrats, registered Democrats in our precinct, and 52 Republicans, my mother being one. My father was not. My mother actually gave me a solid image of what administration should be. She never raised her voice in 60, 62, 63, 64, 66. There was never a vote stolen from our precinct. In 1960, the Dems stole over 100,000 votes in Chicago to deliver the state for Illinois, and likewise in Texas. But I can proudly say that not a single one of those stolen votes came from my mother's precinct. Not one. When my mother left to take her full-time job at the Illinois Institute of Technology as secretary to the to the chair of the chemical engineering department, she couldn't serve anymore. So I became the Republican precinct captain and kept my family's tradition of guaranteeing an honest vote count in our precinct. That's all for today, but I will continue.
Thank you. Paul Stapleton Smith.
I'm so grateful to be here with you today. And I always say this, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. Christie, because I know you really try to look squarely at our issues. I'm here to discuss the impending heat ordinance that you're going to consider on Monday. And we've shared this. You guys have been open. You've been collaborative. This has been an ongoing evolutionary process. And that's why I can say thank you again for that, to underscore the urgency of enforcement is a singular concern with the current language. We have to have effective enforcement. And I know you know that, but we have to sort that out in a way that makes it meaningful for workers, including the ability to report in a timely and accurate way without retaliation from the employers. Our other speakers have spoken to the other points. And so I don't want to reiterate that. I don't want to repeat that, but Acting Secretary of Labor, Julie Sue, invited us to an extreme heat protection ordinance. She had learned of our Arizona statewide coalition, and she said two things. She brought OSHA, some of her best OSHA people there, and she said, that which we cannot do at the federal level is up to you, because I know at the city and the county levels and the reputation in Arizona for having forward-thinking, innovative, and committed elected officials. She said, this is a hard thing for me to say, but they can do what we can't do at the federal level. And so I know you know this, and I'm not here to scold you. I appreciate and admire all of your efforts and some of the challenges that you face. We look forward to always being, having your back on these issues on an ongoing basis. And to be very clear, the stakeholders panel, the ongoing Citizens Advisory and Stakeholder Committee, I happen to serve on several commissions and committees. That's to have your back and lift this up as we go forward. So once again, thank you. And I admire all of you for your patience, honestly.
Thank you. Sarah Roberts. And Ms. Roberts is our last speaker.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Roberts, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm wearing two hats today. I want to thank you, first of all, for the proclamation, the Be Smart proclamation, setting aside, designated the week of at the end of August to be smart, because that's really going to help the health of our community. And then my other hat today is I'm on the steering committee of the Josefina Ahumada Worker Center, Southside Worker Center. And so representing the workers, so we represent about 60 day laborers who come to work and members of the center there. And so we just want to say we're in full support of the ordinance, as Ms. Lesher has written, the heat protection ordinance, that is. And also fully support all of the recommendations sent by Chris Mays. I would just add that I would recommend, or we would recommend, to include all county employees and to eventually consider including all workers in Pima County, including the most vulnerable. We do heat education, heat protection education every day with the workers, but we need a good, strong ordinance that covers everyone. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a good day.
Thank you. And I don't believe we have any other speakers, so I'm going to go ahead and close the call to the public. Oh, did you put in a card? Okay, well, go ahead and come up and speak, and then if you can put in a card. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Just wanted to say I agree with the SMART group. The prevention of accidental death of children, I guess it was in the hundreds. But that isn't, I disagree with Rex on the number one cause of child death. The number one cause is where we purposely murder children in the womb. And I guess it's a business. And also there's the children at the southern border involved in the trafficking. And I guess November, we're voting on an initiative to allow live birth abortion. That's what I'm hearing. And so anyway, I guess it's about the health. It's about health, though, the abortion. And the other thing I noticed during the elections, on the final report at the end of the day, on election day, there wasn't a tally of the number of dropped off mail-in ballots. Why is that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now if you can go ahead and fill out that card, please. Now I'm going to go ahead and close the call to the public and ask my colleagues if they would like to ask staff to review a matter, ask that a matter be put on a future agenda, or respond to a criticism.
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
Following up on the comments from the employee in the IT department, would appreciate it if the board could get an update on the status of all appeals as we're moving forward with implementation of the class and compensation study.
Thank you. And I did want to follow up with a comment by Ms. Ricard. The Board of Supervisors voted to have a special meeting virtual only on May 21st, 2024. The agenda was posted for that meeting on August 6th, 2024. A summary was posted of our meeting yesterday, later after the meeting, at 11:46 a.m. and we had to wait to upload the video first. And then the summary from yesterday's meeting is online and also the video is online. So I just want to follow that up. Any other, Supervisor Lee.
Following up, thank you, Chair Grijalva. Following up on the Veterans Memorial, I was the one who brought up maybe a possible move, and the memo that you'll get talked about approximately 500,000 was the estimate to move it. But I think the idea of the Mosaic Veterans Memorial is a good one. And because that's a private public partnership, it could be that there could be some funds and we could look into that. So I would like to ask Administrator Lesher to find out if that's even a possibility. I mean, I feel so badly to hear about all the issues that have happened with our memorials, both at the park and also at Keno. So if there was a way to safeguard that and have it in a more public space, I think that would be awesome. The other thing that I'd like to ask is that, number one, our ballot box is picked up daily in our rural areas. So if we could find that out. I don't know if they are, but I would assume they are. But I heard today they weren't. So.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Lee, yeah, I believe
Administrator Lesher.
later this morning you will have the elections director here.
Okay.
We can answer some of those questions directly.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Then the other item that I'd like to ask Administrator Lesher, is it possible for us to see what Maricopa County Recorder and a Pima County Recorder do with regards to having safeguards? And then also in our Maricopa County Elections Department and Pima County Elections Department, what we do, and see it side by side so we can actually get a better idea about what differences there are. Thank you.
And I would just add to Supervisor Lee's request to say also their Division of Elections Department. So it's not like, because it's also together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's Division of Elections and Recorder, and then they each do different functions. And so I think it's important for us to understand how they overlap.
But if I may ask, so the Recorder in Maricopa County and the Recorder in Pima County, they do similar things.
That's the question,
thing we
because
don't know.
I think that it's good for us to just ask.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie?
Two quick things. One, we were discussing possibly moving the Veterans Memorial as discussed today. If that's going to be the case, I'd like to suggest that we also consider the Pima County Air and Space Museum. I think that would be a fine area, and it would be secure and most appropriate given with the the theme of the Space Museum. Secondly, well, I can't remember what the second one was we were talking about at this particular point. Elections. It'll come back to me, I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So we are a little behind. I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Hines.
Thank you. Just briefly, well, two things. One, I just wanted to clarify our last speaker said something I found pretty shocking. And while I do not speak on behalf of the group organizing the constitutional amendment with regard to protecting abortion access, there's no such. It does not speak in any way to third term live birth, any sort of late term anything. This simply restores the Roe v. Wade protections that were taken away by the Trump-appointed Supreme Court. So, and as a second, if you would indulge me with a point of personal privilege, I wanted to thank some of our first responders for an incident, if that's okay. Okay, good. So on the early morning of August 9th, I was driving with one of my team off campus, away from my hospital, and we happened upon on North Craycroft a gentleman who was very minimally responsive on the side of the road, and I notified, of course, called 911 when he wasn't responsive, and within a matter of minutes, Deputy Michael McConaughey and the two different rural Metro Fire paramedic teams came to assess the gentleman and to make sure that he was safe. And I just wanted to thank them for their for doing their job and for responding with with such efficiency. So thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor Hines.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Just
Supervisor
remembered the
Christie.
second.
Okay.
It's also important to recognize the oversight of the Recorder's Office and the Department of Elections by Pima County. We as a board cannot dictate or impose any kind of issuance of procedure or behavior on the Recorder's Office, because the Recorder is a duly elected, separate functioning entity that has its own elected head. So there is a definite and distinct line as far as what we can do. Now, we certainly can affect the budget of the Recorder, but as far as the day-to-day operations, it's just like us with the Sheriff's Department or any of the row officers. The Board of Supervisors doesn't have that ability to insist that certain procedures take place. However, that doesn't bar us from asking. And secondly, the Elections Department is under the auspices and the jurisdiction of the county, and that is a different type of situation because the elections director is hired by the county, and that gives us a more direct way of conveying to the elections department any kind of issues that we have. But it's important to remember just how far we can go as a board on certain other areas, such as the Recorder's Office versus what we can do with the elections department. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are a little behind on our time certain of 10. So I apologize. So we're going on to item number 21. This is Planning, Design, and Construction Department presentation. This is the presentation by the Planning, Design, and Construction Director regarding an overview of the department, and I apologize for our tardiness. Please. Administrator Lesher.
Thank you. And if I may, if you recall a while back, there were three different departments involved in all of this. We had through our facilities management department not only included all of the day-to-day facilities, repair, maintenance, but also dealt with all of the construction, both horizontal and vertical. We also had a department that related to project design and construction. And so we've moved facilities management into its own department to oversee the things that need to happen to keep your lights on and make sure that the buildings are safe and secure. And then we combined the other two departments so that we have someone overseeing the construction of all of our facilities. And as we opened that job, we were very fortunate to be able to have an opportunity to select Mr. Rod Lane. Some of you in the community may know Mr. Lane from when he was the divisional director for ADOT here in Southern Arizona. And one of the things that I made all of us decide we'd really love to have Mr. Lane come to work for us is that I believe every project that was under his direction, in this area was on time and on budget. And those were the kinds of things we were absolutely looking for in terms of our projects. So we're pleased to have Mr. Lane here. And I think because of the changes that have occurred in the realignment of the departments, we ask that he spend a few moments giving you an overview of that department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lesher, for the very kind words and introduction. I really appreciate it. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to present to you this morning. It's quite a
Pull the mic closer.
my pleasure. Thank you. This is my first time presenting the board, so I'm sure there's going to be some logistical issues here. So I appreciate your patience as I navigate this. So I'm supposed to have a slide up there. I don't see it. So I'll give it
Mr.
a
Lane.
moment.
Pardon me for
Okay.
interrupting. The clerk advises that we need a little bit of time for the slides to get set up.
Very good.
Pardon me. You, Dan?
I do not. I do, but it's yeah, it's not something anybody really wants to see. So I can kind of tell you what I'm going to talk about a little bit. Oh, there we go. There we go. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. There we go. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of what the project design and construction department does, where we plan on going, and then kind of how we intend to get there. So if we go to the next slide, please, we're going to start talking about the 5 separate divisions in the department. So utilizing a team of architects, interior designers, design specialists, and project coordinators, the R&I division is responsible for renovations and interiors of Pima County's remodel building projects and working environments. The R&I team maintains the county's interior standards, including furniture, paint colors, flooring, and window coverings, designs and manages installation of county standard systems, furniture using new products and existing furniture inventory, including systems furniture, and they're a group of architects and design professionals. If we can go to the next slide, please. There we go. And their division, the new buildings division is a group of architects and design professionals who manage large, complex building projects under the Pima County Capital Improvement Program. The project management includes oversight of the project scope and budget, schedules, design consultants, construction selection and contracts, public art, furnishings and equipment, etc. Projects range in budget from $1 million to about $50 million, and from new buildings to large renovations and expansions to existing buildings. We can go to the next slide, please. The Public Works Division manages the design and construction of Pima County's public works capital improvement projects, manages the county's art program, assists in public works long-term planning, construction estimates, insights, and short-term planning, and coordinates interdepartmental projects. The majority of the design and construction efforts include projects for DOT, Parks and Recreation, wastewater, Department of Environmental Quality, the Stadium District, and occasionally will manage department CIP projects as deemed necessary. If we go to the next slide, please. The Construction Management Division manages the construction phase of new buildings and renovation. Construction managers enforce the terms of construction contracts and keep the construction phase on schedule and within budget. The construction phase starts with a pre-construction meeting and continues through the development of the new buildings or renovations with weekly progress meetings, site visits, and contract administration that affects changes to the construction contract scope and duration. The CMS team serves as the bridge between the PDC design staff and the facilities management operation program, such that design intent is maintained throughout the construction and the operability of the project is maximized. We can go to the next slide, please. The Project Services Division is responsible for providing resource and project managers, procedures, and coordination of the financial forecasting and analysis, budgeting, procurement, vendor payment processing, and provisions of information for long-term financial planning and project reporting for capital projects that the project design and construction department manages for the critical infrastructure needs of Pima County. On to the next slide, please. So with all of that, where are we going? So the project design department is a relatively new department. I see our primary task is building trust and confidence with our client departments and demonstrating that we are capable and skilled at delivering the CIP projects on time and within budget. This, of course, is construction and unforeseen issues do occur. So with that, open and honest communication is a key to this being successful. Next slide, please. And how are we going to get there? The vertical side of the house functions fairly well. We've recently hired a new senior architect and have 2 more openings that we're filling now. The horizontal side has recently hired 4 new positions, including a new deputy director that'll oversee the horizontal work along with 3 new project managers. With the implementation throughout the county of the new enterprise software system, I see an opportunity to use the data within that system to develop metrics and dashboards that will allow us to track and monitor projects and also a system to better communicate with our clients. Next slide. With that, I'd like to take the opportunity to answer any questions anyone may have, and thank you for having this discussion.
Thank you. Any questions?
May I make a quick statement?
Sure.
I had the pleasure and privilege of working with Mr. Lane during my years as the ADOT representative of Southern Arizona. And I share the same accolades that the county administrator shared with us regarding Mr. Lane's capabilities and talents, and glad to see you here. You haven't changed a bit.
I appreciate that. Neither have you.
And I think you'll be a tremendous asset to the county administration. So I'm glad you're here and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we're back on the agenda. Our executive session will be at a time certain of 11:30, so we'll skip over that. Now we're on item, Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards. Item number 12 is the Flood Control District. If I can take, do you want to take 12 and 13 together? Go ahead and move both of those, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. And Supervisor Hines is doing a thumb up for voting yes and thumb down for voting no, in case you're all wondering why I keep looking up. Okay, now we're on item number 14 is the Stadium District Board, Southern Arizona Sports and Tourism and Film Authority to provide an intergovernmental agreement for baseball operations, promotions, marketing, and economic development. This is a no-cost 2-year term. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
I'll be supporting this agenda item, but I'd just like to make a quick comment on it that hopefully this entity that's being formed will help the Tucson Saguaros with their challenges with the Keno Sports Complex. So I'm looking forward to seeing that there might be some activity that could relieve some of the issues that are surfacing at the sports complex regarding the Tucson Saguaros. Thank you, Madam
Chair
Chair.
Giddy and Supervisor Christie.
Administrator Lesher.
Staff from the Tourism Authority is here today. If you'd like to ask that question or
Well,
get any
hopefully he
additional
heard
comments.
it. You don't need
You
to.
got it? You can nod yes and that would be.
Did you want to respond now or do you want to send us a communication? Either one is okay.
Can you give a quick overview to my?
Thank you. And introduce yourself.
I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. See, I didn't say Madame this time. So I'm Blake Eager. I'm the Executive Director for Southern Arizona Sports, Tourism, and Film Authority. Supervisors, Administrator, thank you for having us here. We're very excited about this opportunity. I will get with the Tucson Saguaros and have that conversation, talk to them. We've been working directly with Major League Baseball, World Baseball Classic, and Mexican Winter League, but that doesn't mean our concerns aren't with our community that currently exists. So I will have that conversation. Our idea is to promote, assist, and market any way we possibly can with the current professional sports that are there, incoming professional sports, or any events possible.
Fair enough.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time.
so much. And thank you for being here.
Chair Gerhalva.
Yes, Supervisor Scott.
Could I ask Ms. Lesher, could we get some occasional updates, at least quarterly, on the operations of the Sports Tourism and Film Authority, similar to updates that we get from Visit Tucson and other entities?
Great. Supervisor Lee.
Chair Grijalva, thank you. I just want to also state that Edgar Soto had a lot to do with making this happen, and I just want to acknowledge his leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And now we'll move to item 15, the consent calendar. I'll go ahead and move approval.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 16 is the Board of Supervisors updates on our board committees and commissions and any other municipalities. Colleagues?
Chair Gerhalder.
Supervisor Scott.
I wanted to share with my colleagues that the PAG Regional Council and RTA Board were scheduled for a regular meeting on July 25th. Unfortunately, we had to cancel that meeting due to a lack of a quorum. Only 4 of us were present, and you need 5 of the 9 members to be present. We're trying to schedule a special RTA board meeting for early September. PAG staff is working on coordinating calendars right now. We may be close to getting an RTA next plan out for the public review period. So look for that announcement. Hopefully it'll be in the first week of September. I also represent us on the Legislative Policy Committee for the County Supervisors Association. It doesn't meet when the legislature is not in session, but the annual policy summit, where the state association will set its legislative policy agenda for the coming legislative session, is set for October 7 to 9 in Pinal County. I know that Supervisor Lee is planning to attend. I hope all of you will consider attending. If not, we will be following up with you to get your proxy. Thank you, Chair Grijalva.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, so my only update is I want to send a congratulations to President Dr. Charles Jeffrion and Vice President Mike Humphreys from the Board of Health. Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to 17, and that is the Metropolitan Education Commission I'd like to go ahead and have a little discussion about this, but we'll move it for sake of discussion. It's resolution number 2024-38 of the Board of Supervisors changing the appointments, qualifications, and term of office and commissions, officers, and rules of the Metropolitan Education Commission, amending resolution number 1990-178. This is an item brought forward by Supervisor Lee. I'll go ahead and move the item for discussion.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Lee. Supervisor Lee, do you want to address this?
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. Yes, and I'd like to invite Rocky Perez, our Executive Director of the Metropolitan Ed Commission, if I may, to come up and address some of the questions we may have. And I would like to say that for 2 years, the Metropolitan Ed Commission really did not have a full-time executive director. Mr. Perez was hired in the fall of 24. So really, I think you just came on board very recently and really hit the ground running. So perhaps what you could do, if you don't mind, Mr. Perez, is just give us a real quick summary of the resolution changes and why.
Yeah. So, I could be wrong, but I think MEC is unlike other boards, councils, and commissions in that it's also a nonprofit organization, as you all know. And I think with that, in its founding, there wasn't any delineation between the board of directors within that commission and then the commission itself. And in having a 39 member board, essentially, it made operations fairly difficult for someone that wouldn't have been there full time. And so I think in stepping in, it was, to our detriment in, getting things started. And so this resolution essentially provides some, additional framework for us to operate both as a public body as well as a nonprofit organization. And so that reduces the 39 of the entire commission, but then also stipulating who among that commission is eligible for the board membership as well.
Okay. My only question was, when I served 2 different times in my lifetime, I thought 39 is just a lot of people. And so you're reducing it to 29, which I still think is kind of large. And so I'm assuming that if it also becomes a little bit problematic. I mean, it was problematic to have a quorum to be able to have a meeting on a regular basis. And so we would hear the presentations and they would be recorded just so people would have access to them, but we couldn't take any action because we, on a regular basis, didn't have quorum. So I'm just concerned a little bit about the number even at 29.
Yeah. So, I think it is our intention, I think at some point in the next year, maybe 2 years, that we might even reduce it more so. But in the item that we attached to item 17, we included a new roster, and that included folks that have confirmed participation or interest in it. And so we already confirmed 16 of those that will actually be joining. I think one important thing is that in this resolution that's attached to this addendum item is that we've adopted focuses, and around those focuses are interested parties that really want to get involved. And so, one example is Literacy Connects. We'd love to proclaim Literacy Connects Week, not Literacy Connects, Literacy Week, and bringing together local nonprofits around, the topic of literacy. And so, I think that just having a North Star for these commissioners to, invite their involvement and active participation, I think would allow for, quorum to be met with excitement rather than a sense of, dread for time that historically had been, that kind of feeling.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Sure, Geralda.
Supervisor Scott.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Perez for his proactive communication with board offices since he became the executive director. My staff and I had our quarterly meeting with the Economic Development Department yesterday, and Ms. Maslin in that department says that the two of you are in communication almost once a week about the operations of the MEC. So I just want to thank you for your outreach to board offices and also to staff.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
I agree with a lot of the observations about this resolution. It's very complex, the whole situation. And I'm just wondering, for everybody's protection, has the county attorney's office reviewed all this and finds it satisfactory and in line?
Mr. Brown, do you want to move your mic up and turn it? Yeah.
Chair, Supervisor Christie, yes, we work very closely with Rocky and with Supervisor Lee on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Good questions. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
The motion was for discussion only.
oh, I just did it to discuss, but that's fine. I'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and do it again. I'll go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Hines, did you have a comment or question? I thought I saw your hand go up. Okay. So now we'll go to move approval. I'll go ahead and move the item. Second. And Supervisor Lee seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes unanimously. 18 will be at a time certain in 12 minutes, so we'll skip that. Item number 19 is a release of attorney-client privilege memorandum regarding filling the vacant constable position. This is an item brought forward by Supervisor Christie. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I guess my question is, why are we, why the request to release this document?
Well, this is in line of the questions that I have regarding this, so I can certainly address that. But my first question is, if you look to the request for consideration on 20, how did this get on the agenda when it is the contents of a confidential memorandum under attorney-client privilege? It's on the agenda fully disclosed, but it's under the heading of confidential. How did this get put on the agenda in such a manifestly open form?
Administrator Lesher, Mr. Brown, or Ms. Rodriguez? Any of you?
I'm happy to fill in, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie. The legal advice in the memo, I think, is separate from the recommendation. The recommendation was really about procedure. It was really about the board rules and Robert's rules, and my recommendation on how the board might address this issue. But the legal advice that preceded it, I think, is included in the memo. And that's the distinction I would make.
If you look, I don't want to get into nitpicking, but the
attorney-client privilege memorandum is outlined in the request for consideration. And I don't recall making a motion to move to release that to the public.
What specific, are you talking about what's?
Number 20.
No, I understand. Where it says request for reconsideration, are you talking about?
A, B, C, all of the items, C, B, C, they were in a privilege, attorney-client privilege memorandum. I don't remember, isn't it policy that if there's a attorney-client privilege memorandum, the board has to vote to release it to the public? That was never done, yet it's outlined in distinct form and detail on the agenda.
On the agenda. I see what you're saying. I was asked to put this on by legal because it's a board of supervisors. We did the action, so we didn't draft it. So I'm trying to remember who drafted it, or at least the language. I think it was legal, right? I don't remember.
Call Chair Grijalva.
I don't remember either, but it was not our idea. I wanted, but I don't know. I don't know if this is, do you think that this is a violation?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, my response is the same as the first response. There's a portion of this memo that is a recommendation for how the board might put on an item. That portion I don't consider to be, it's part of an attorney-client privilege memo, but it's about procedure and it's about putting on an item. And if that recommendation were followed, or, the idea is that the recommendation would be followed, that portion of the memo would need to be therefore expressed on the board agenda as recommended by the county attorney's office.
I understand your question. Now, it took me a minute.
So are we going to be in any violation by acting on this if it's attorney-client privilege and it hasn't been moved by the board to release it?
I do not believe, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, I do not believe so.
We're not going to end up in the Crossbar Hotel here?
No, sir.
I'm happy to release it. I don't know. I mean, I'm
It
happy to
certainly
move
is
forward.
irregular, the whole process, correct? And it certainly reflects that this wasn't, I don't think, fully thought out as to how it's supposed to be presented. Correct?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, this was an unusual circumstance for sure.
So we have before us on 19 to waive privilege and to release to the public this memorandum, correct? And that would require board action, but it's already, as I say, outlined in the next agenda item. So if it's been acknowledged that this was irregular and perhaps, quite frankly, a mistake, then I'll proceed to move item 19.
I think I moved it. And then you seconded, I believe.
So then I'll move to call the question.
We'll just go, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed. Item passes 4-1. Supervisor Hines votes no. And if you call the question, then we have to vote to call the question. So I just we were going to do it anyway. Yeah. So that's why I just sort of said, we're going to call
I thought
it.
you could just say call the question. That automatically.
No. Okay. So now we're on to item 20. And there are different parts because of the actions that we took on May 21st. And so the first one, item A, is to request to suspend the Board of Supervisors Rule H.2 pursuant to Board of Supervisors Rule number 0.1. So I'll go ahead and move that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. We do not need roll call. Is that correct?
No, we do have discussion, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We can discuss. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Supervisor Christie.
My understanding again of the procedures is that reconsideration must take place the first meeting following the Board of Supervisors action. And why are we jumping through all these hoops? Never had to suspend the rules before. I've been on this board longer than anybody, 8 years. I don't remember ever suspending rules before. Plus, if we have to suspend rules, why have rules in the first place? And once we suspend the rules and we make the vote, do the former rules go back into effect?
Administrator Lesher, Mr.
Sure.
Brown.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, and I'll start and get followed in. There are the rules, and as they relate to both parliamentary procedure and in the board rules, deal with reconsideration. A reconsideration generally means, and if you'll notice, it says it has to occur within the next, that board meeting or the next board meeting. There is an assumption that if there needs to be, and I believe as we've heard from the county attorney's office, an immediate reversal of position, then it needs a reconsideration. That rule does not presume that if the board takes an action, that action is in place in perpetuity. That should the board ever decide that it wants to revisit an item in the future, it can certainly do that. The rules relating to immediately bringing back an item for reconsideration deal with those that are being reconsidered either at a meeting or very soon thereafter. Again, I think that any of the board would understand that if you vote on something in 2019, it does not mean that you can never, ever vote on that again or reconsider it. The concern is whether it is done within that very short period of time. Out of an abundance of caution, which is why I believe, I'll just say, we put the item on the agenda to review the position, to appoint the constable at that time, because we did not believe that it violated any kind of rules regarding reconsideration. Out of an abundance of caution, I believe people have come back and reviewed and decided, and I believe what you saw now that you have released it is that the county attorney's position, I'll let him speak to it, is just that while you are not obligated to never reconsider an item again, it deals with when you might be considering that. Mr. Brown?
Well, Madam Chair, two questions. What is unique about this situation? And we all agree this is pretty messy, right?
I don't know.
All right. I will state it's pretty messy. And I'm just wondering what caused the mess and what is so unique about this position?
Chair
Yes.
Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, I can't add the first because, again, I don't agree there's a mess. What I believe has occurred is that initially the board had looked at refilling a constable's position. And at that time, I think we had, the will of the board was that we not fill that position. And I think that that has gone back to consideration of this board for some period of time about whether we needed the positions of constable and whether we could eliminate those positions. Subsequently, what became clear with the position that the board considered at that time and looked at not filling is that there is a time period by which you may vote to not fill the position. And it has to do with when the position is up for election and when you can fill a position. It is clear that at this point, because it is on the ballot, it's too late for the board to remove the position at this time. The position would be filled. The question that we came back to and requested that the board look to consider the position at this time and fill it is that that position will be filled in January of this year. There is one individual on the board. There is no other election for that board, and that individual will serve, we believe, be elected in January and be elected in November, serving in January. The question has come up in that the work being done currently, the work that would be done by that constable, if that individual was appointed, is falling to other members and to other members of the other constables to fill that gap. We had a request then subsequently from the constables to ask that you go ahead and fill the position. The question is not, are you filling the position again for the remainder of time? The position will be filled in January. The question before you is, do we want to fill that position from this time of August through the end of this year?
All right. So at this particular point, we passed 19 and we're on 20. And we are voting at this point to fill the position or not to fill the position or to suspend the rules.
We're voting to suspend the rules so we can reconsider the item. So that's why there's A, B, C. It is complicated. Yes, I agree.
It's a mess.
Well, I think some of it has to do with legal opinion to make sure that it is as clean as possible. That's why we have all of these hoops. So I wouldn't agree either that it is a mess. I just think that it is, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of different attorneys, and some take routes that are different from others. As long as at the end of the day, we're legally protected, I'm comfortable with it.
And Mr. Brown, you're comfortable that whatever action we take on these two items will be legally protected?
Yes, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie. I just wanted to point out that part of the issue, the board could have just brought this back as an item and voted on it because there was a question from a supervisor's office, which led us to believe there may be questions with transparency and with the public. We just took a very conservative approach of dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's and taking these steps. It may seem a mess, but we wanted to make sure that we had public transparency and there were no questions about how this was, these actions were arrived at. So there are some extra steps here, but I am confident that they're, and some extra hoops, but I'm confident that they're appropriate and will withstand.
Including suspending the rules.
Correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, so I believe we have a motion and a second for item A. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Hines voting no. Item number B, the request to suspend rule number H.2 was approved, and we will proceed with the vote reconsideration. And so
Now, I can't vote on this, can I? Or is it the time frame passed?
Yeah, that's what we just voted on. So we've suspended the rules. Right. And so on May 21st, we took this action where you voted no on regarding the selection process to fill the vacancy. So now what we're doing is we are proceeding with the vote for reconsideration of the item. So it's not necessarily voting for the appointment, it's voting to reconsider. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move that item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? So this is just to reconsider the filling of the vacancy because we already addressed that. Okay.
Chair Grijalva?
Yes.
So per our rules, the cause by a member of the prevailing side, the cause justifying the reconsideration should be articulated.
Okay, so the reason why I voted to not fill the vacancy at the time that it was brought forward on May 21st is because we had not had a background check that was completed. So it had nothing to do with the qualifications of the individual or whether to choose to fill the vacancy or not. That was why I voted no. So I understand that we now have documentation that a background check was completed. And so I'm willing to consider the item.
And I want
Supervisor Christie.
For the record, Madam Chair, that I voted yes at the last meeting with us.
You voted opposite. So we voted, I moved and Supervisor Scott seconded not to fill the vacancy. So it was like a weird double negative thing. And so it passed 4-1. You voted no at that time. So we were voting not to fill the vacancy and you voted no. Like, opposed. Yes, I know it's a double negative. But anyway, yes, I think you wanted to fill the vacancy. And
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
And I don't think that we have an issue now because we have the background check. And so, but we'll see. Okay, right? So we have a motion and a second to reconsider. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Hines voting no. And so now the motion to reconsider has been approved. And so we will reconsider. Now it's like a fresh item. So this is discussion, direction, action regarding the selection process to fill the vacancy of Constable for Justice of the Peace. This is an item. Let me read all of the individual. Tracy. I apologize. I should have this handy. This is we would move to appoint Tracy Etheridge Nelson to Constable at Justice Precinct number 4. I'll go ahead and move that item.
Second.
I have a motion is second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion?
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
When we voted not to fill this position, let's remember that the incumbent constable had been recommended for by the state's Constable Standards and Training Board, had been recommended for suspension. And we followed up on that recommendation and suspended him for the balance of his term. Then he resigned. He resigned after we took that action. We decided not to fill the vacancy at that time because it was a moot point. There was already not going to be anybody in the position until the end of this calendar year. However, then we got a presentation from the presiding constable and that was at, I think a couple of meetings ago, who pointed out a lot of the logistical issues that the office is dealing with. And he asked that we reconsider filling the position. Human Resources did the background check that you just referred to on Ms. Etheridge Nielsen. So I'm comfortable doing this not only because of the recommendation that we got from the presiding constable based on the operations of the office, but also his recommendation was followed up by a recommendation from the county administrator. So that's why I'm comfortable reconsidering the item and filling the position. It seemed like a moot point back when we took our initial vote because there wasn't, I don't even think we'd had petitions approved yet for the election.
And this Miss Etheridge Nielsen is the only individual that is
That is correct.
Could fill the vacancy anyway.
Yes.
So we're voting to appoint her a little earlier so she can get through some of the training.
Yes, ma'am.
That won't occur again until January.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you for indulging in that complicated process. Okay, now we're on to item number 22. This is attractions and tourism, we have a time certain at 11. Which one is that one? Oh, we have to go back, sorry. Okay, so we're back on item 18. This is a time certain item of 11. This is the 2024 primary and general election. This is an item that was requested by Supervisor Christie regarding concerns expressed during the call to the public on July 16th. And there was a request that the Pima County Recorder and Elections Director be present to respond to issues and concerns. I see our Director Hargrove is here. Do you have a presentation or were you just here to answer questions? And do you want Administrator Lesher? And then, okay.
Good morning, Chair Grahova, members of the board. I actually do not have a presentation per se,
Okay.
but I do have statements to make.
Okay, great. Could you make a statement and then you ask questions or how do you want to do it?
Let me first ask, is the county recorder here?
No.
Where is she? Why isn't she here?
She is a duly elected person and not required to be here when she is asked.
Okay. So what can we do here as far as Ms.
I'm sorry. Ms. Manriquez has.
Yeah, Chair Grijalva, board members. So the recorder did let our office know yesterday that she would not be attending. Right now is a high volume time for her office. They are verifying signatures for the statewide initiatives, which have tight statutory deadlines. She does plan to present an after action report to the EIC and to the board at a future meeting.
I think at this particular point, Madam Chair, with your indulgence, I would just like to go over what was stated at the last meeting, a call to the public, and Ms. Hargrove can respond to them rather than having to make a statement and then go back. And then at any time that Ms. Hargrove has a statement, and I think there are some opportunities during this that you might want to make a certain statement, if that's all right with you.
And that's fine if you want to ask the questions that you have a concern about. And then Director Hargrove, whenever, feel free to just read the statement you have.
She's prepared to answer all of those questions.
Great, thank you.
We've heard several statements about how important it is to have faith and confidence in our election system, and that numerous people have done some diligent research and have had real life experiences. It's very troubling that they have had these experiences. And I think it's important that we allow a mechanism such as this, what we're doing today, to have those concerns brought to the surface and illuminated so that we can address them and answer them in a very cogent way so as to prevent any misunderstandings, or as it seems to be a popular thing to say whenever you question anything, that it's a conspiracy theory. So I'm hoping that this will allow those folks with concerns to have the ability to have those questions addressed. So with that, Madam Chair, Director Hargrove, I think we ought to hit the number one thing right off the bat. You've already made a statement regarding the misprinting of the primary date. Could you just give a quick response to what happened and any kind of issues that you'd like to bring up that you haven't before on that issue?
Yes, sir. Supervisor Christie, absolutely. As I've stated before, yes, there was a error made in proofing. There was a team proofing the sample ballot, and the reality is not an excuse, but the reality is that there is no single person or a staff of individuals that are assigned proofing tasks in my office. So that means that individuals get interrupted. They get called away to take care of things for other citizens and other voters. And so the solution that I came up with is a checklist. And I know that folks are saying, well, what's a checklist going to do? Well, a checklist will allow them to know where they stop. So if they're proofing the sample ballot, they can get to a stopping point if they're interrupted, check that off, and know where they need to pick up when they come back. As opposed to either having to start all over again or miss something as they did with the sample ballots that went out for this election.
Chairman, I'm sorry, Supervisor Christie, if I may, excuse me.
Please.
Sure. The other thing that we have done, as I know that Elections Director Hargrove provided a list of things that we would do to make sure it did not happen again, including we do have a checks and balances where there will be a full review by others that are not in the department following the checklist. When it's done, it will be shipped out to another department to do a full review so that we have a second set of eyes and a check and balance on that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Hargrove, do you have any indication or idea of any kind of impact this might have had on the voting procedure with this date being incorrect?
Supervisor Christie, I did not hear that anyone did not get the postcard that went out. I know we did receive a lot of phone calls from voters who did receive the postcard. The media actually organically began to pick up the story and publish it, and there were radio interviews. So I'm confident that the message got out to those voters who actually received the sample ballot with the wrong date.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, real quickly, Ms. Hargrove, in elections, the IND and the PND issues are not political parties, yet they seem to be treating as such. What's your reaction to that?
Supervisor Christie, I was and still am a little confused about what they were referring to. So if they're referring to employees of the elections office, I really don't know what party they are. They're not required to be Democrat, Republican, or any other party. If they're referring to individuals who are working in the early board, on the boards, or at the polling places, then they are required to be of different political parties. Whether or not a PND or independent is a party, I cannot define that, but we do have Democrats, Republicans. When we advertised for the early board for the last election, we intentionally required them to identify what party they represented. And all the individuals that we hired for the early board were actually Republicans. Those were the only ones we hired for the early board for the last election because that was what the need was. As far as, I'm not sure what they're talking about, so I can't really speak to that. As far as poll workers, we do have Republican and Democrats, independents and PNDs, yes. So clerks are not required to be of any particular party.
Well, I think there's going to be a little controversy on that, understandably so. Would you be willing to take a look at some of the issues that are being raised personally, and you can respond accordingly?
Sure, I can do that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just move on very quickly to some comments and get your reaction on it. Cheryl Young at the last meeting stated that there was recently a minor incident that I think really indicates that we're not feeling very confident. And what this is that our sample ballots came in the mail and, I beg your pardon. This is the one I was just addressing. Sarah Price states that we've made a public request for chain of custody for documents for the 2022 election and the general election. We have found many inconsistencies and possible fraud. After each election, the canvass report is the sole document used to certify the election. We assume that both the county recorder and the election director are correctly and lawfully have assembled the numbers. Is this a recorder's issue or an elections issue?
Supervisor Christie, I did take a look at the documents that they provided, and all of the documents were actually from the recorder's office. I will say that in 2022, I know that a lot of our chain of custody documents went to the treasurer's office with the other ballots and things that need to be kept there, which means that we transferred chain of custody to the treasurer and they would have to get them from the treasurer. But the documents that I saw that they provided were from the recorder's office. I can address chain of custody though. I can definitely do that.
You can, what, sorry?
I can address chain of custody. I did send some documents to the clerk's office on yesterday that we use in the vote center, one being the official ballot report. I understand that someone spoke and said that they didn't know how many ballots were sent to a vote center or how much ballot stock is sent to a vote center. And that is absolutely not true. That information is on the official ballot report when it goes out. In 2022, we sent out emergency ballots to the vote centers. And there was at the top of each page for each vote center, the number of ballots that we sent. Because we had to send out ballots for each precinct, it's a really long document. And so whenever they used any of the emergency ballots, they were supposed to document on that report how many ballots they used. So that was for their reconciliation. The official ballot report has gone through a couple of iterations where we have modified it, where it works better with the actual electronic poll books that we're using now. So you will see on this particular one that's on the screen was from 2023. We determined that it was easier for the vote centers to be able to have a section where they could actually physically count spoiled ballots and provisional ballots, as well as indicate the number of spoiled and provisional ballots that they checked in on the electronic poll book, because the number can be different. Can you put up the next one? Yes, so this is the, you go back to the one before that. This is the most recent iteration of the official ballot report, where we indicate how much ballot stock we're sending to the actual vote center. And then they will indicate how many test ballots they printed, how many pieces of ballot stock are left in an open packet, and how many packages of ballot stock are left. So that right there is telling me that someone didn't actually look at our document, but maybe they were looking at the recorder's document, because this document actually shows you that. The reason why there can be more spoil ballots hand counted and more provisional ballots hand counted is because you can only spoil a ballot in the electronic poll book if you know who that ballot was issued to. And so if they have to spoil a ballot outside of that, they have the ballot that they've spoiled, the physical copy, but they cannot enter that into the electronic poll book. So those numbers can be different. As far as the provisional ballots, we put that there because we realized that sometimes they did not check in voters as provisional voters. They actually checked them in as regular voters. But if we could see that they had let's say 20 provisional ballots, but they checked in 15, we know that the number of ballots cast should be less than what's checked in the poll book. So this is our chain of custody document for the vote center. And there are a couple of other chain of custody documents that are used when the ballots and the materials are returned to central count. The boards that we have on election night go through the materials, they look at the ballots, they fill out these forms. So these are our forms that we use.
Okay. I did forget one issue, going back to the independent and PND. They are not eligible to fill quote unquote opposite party slots. And I think that's a point that's trying to be made. Is that correct, or is it nebulous, or should it be crystal clear? Or?
That is definitely in statute for the boards that work at vote centers, right? So they cannot fill an opposite party slot in a vote center.
Have they been?
They are clerks at the vote center.
Okay. A lot of the other statements we have here for the recorder, going further into the testimony or the statements that they've stated here is that there may be some locations where the number and position of poll workers does not meet ARS guidelines, and the guideline is cited, and it requires that the Board of Supervisors to approve the poll workers for early voting. Is that an issue that has been brought before you on this?
I'm Supervisor Christie. That's the recorder's office.
Recorder's office. And I'm sure that would be falling under the recorders of a ballot drop-off location.
Yes, sir. That's the recorder's office.
Okay. Let's see here. Recorder. There were no ballot counts or emails between the post office, the recorder's office. Found the county employees or temporary employees that have switched parties from Democrat to either PND or independent. They did not recognize parties. We spoke about that.
Supervisor Christie, I think that's also referring to the recorder's office.
Yes, it is. Chain of custody, missing seals on mail-in ballots. Delivery and pickup person signed for 2 people, missing seals on mail-in ballots, ballot boxes on chain of custody documents. Further, there are mail-in boxes received that had no seals or the seals were damaged.
Sir, I think that's the recorder's office.
Recorder. Well, unfortunately, we don't have the recorder here to address these. So at this particular point, Ms. Hargrove, you stated you might have some statements you'd wanted to address the board with?
Yes, sir. Chair Grohover, Supervisor Christie. Thank you. There was a statement, a conversation I had, an email, I guess, conversation with Mr. Locks about the ballots being dropped off from the post office at vote centers in 2022. I was not aware of it until after they were dropped off, but I was made aware of those ballots being dropped off, and it's not an uncommon practice across the country that happens. But when I was informed by the recorder that they may drop off ballots for the July primary, I did indicate to the recorder that we would not receive them because I had not spoken to the post office and we had not made any arrangements. There would be no documents to transfer chain of custody. So we did inform the inspectors prior to the election not to receive any ballots from the post office.
This current election?
Yes, sir.
So you're referring to the 2022 with the incident?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. And there was an email from Mrs. Aaron in reference to the electronic poll book on election day. And when they opened the polls at 5:45 a.m. when they signed in, she saw a number on the poll book. That number is not, they're not voters. The number, they are Delta files. So as the recorder, once we program the electronic poll books, that data is there. When the recorder continues early voting and emergency voting, the recorder uploads Delta files. So those are updates so that on election day, those individuals are marked as already voting. So the Delta files are what you saw on election day, the 3,869, the 39. The other numbers that are on the electronic poll book are the total number of registered voters and the number of check-ins for that particular vote center. So there are no early voting numbers there. There are no ballots cast there except for the individuals who are checked in on election day.
And Madam Chair, Ms. Hargrove, there's been situations apparently with cameras not working or installed in the vault rooms or things of this nature. Could you address those, please?
Oh, yes, sir, Supervisor Christie. So the statute only requires that we have live feed in the tabulation room. And that live feed is only required when we're counting ballots. However, we have 24/7 video live feed of the counting room. We have 24/7 video live feed of the early board processing room, which is the room where the ballots come from the recorder's office into our office that we process them, we open them and prepare them for tabulation. There's also 24/7 feed of the adjudication room, which was mislabeled as vault. It is not a vault. It was a part of a vault, and they renovated the section so that they could have that room to do other things in. It has been renamed adjudication room. So the camera is on there. The seal that is being referred to is on the door to the adjudication room, not the vault. The vaults are their cameras in the vault, all of the vaults, but they're not live stream. I would not live stream a vault for anyone to see, because to me, that's kind of a breach of security. And I wouldn't really want anyone to know where that vault is outside of the election staff.
And could you, Madam Chair, could you just, in your own words, differentiate between broadcast and security cameras? Broadcast cameras and security cameras?
Yes, sir. So broadcast cameras are the ones that are on our webpage where you can click on the link, video feed, and you can see what's going on anytime, day or night.
Which ones are those?
Those are in the tabulation room, the warehouse, the early board room, and the adjudication room.
And these are broadcast or security?
They're broadcast cameras.
And security?
The security cameras are throughout the office and in the vaults, and they're there so that if anything happens, we're able to review that video to determine what happened.
Okay, and finally, Madam Chair, just one more comment from a constituent. He wishes to give the following update. He's worked as a marshal for the past 3 or 4 elections, complained about the chain of custody to election officials, both with training and via phone to the main office. The recent primary election was the first time there was actually chain of custody paperwork with totals completed at the time of turnover. This is much better than set up with just place your ballots and other materials on the floor and you are free to go. I worked at a polling center near the airport. Hopefully this process was changed countywide. I saw nothing else from a polling station perspective concerning processes for live voting that would be cause for alarm. But his final sentence is the one I'd like to hear you respond to. I'm not particularly fond of people being able to drop off as many ballots as they want without question. But it is what it is. Define in your words, or at least state your reaction to how many ballots can people drop off and what do they constitute as far as being legal?
Supervisor Christie, statutorily, they can drop them off for family members, individuals who live in their home, anyone they're caring for. I really can't speak to how many people live in one house. So it could be any number. There are some large families, there are some small families. I cannot give you a number.
Do you feel this, Madam Chair, do you feel this might be some kind of an issue that can lead to misunderstandings as far as the amount of ballots and where they're coming from, being dropped off?
Supervisor Christie, I do believe there are some individuals who believe that if they're bringing in more than one ballot and is not their ballot, that there is some fraud, but I do not believe that is the case. But I do believe that individuals believe that that may be the case.
Okay, is there any other statements or comments you'd like to make at this point on this whole issue?
Supervisor Christie, I guess my last comment is the marshal who made the statement about chain of custody and the process that was happening prior to this election. I appreciate that he reported that they are actually doing what they have been instructed to do. It has been a training process. We're moving forward. We are definitely improving. And this provides me an opportunity to fine tune the process. This provides me an opportunity to understand where individuals are concerned about the process and where they may be confused about the process. And it allows me to articulate and to provide the information that they're looking for, as well as make some changes that may make them feel like the process is more secure.
And Madam Chair, Ms. Hargrove, would you be willing to continue to have an open dialogue with folks that have issues and questions and respond to them accordingly?
Yes, sir, Supervisor Christie, I will.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I do want to make a statement. That's not a question and answer period, ma'am. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about my strong confidence in our elections department, our recorder's office, and all the departments and teams who work extremely hard for months leading up to and after each election. I'm grateful for their service to our community and for ensuring the security of our elections and our ability to vote here in Pima County. Just like the nearly 198,000 other Pima County residents, I cast my ballot for the July 30th primary election by participating in what former Congressman John Lewis famously called the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in a democratic society. Voters here in our community practice one of the most crucial civil engagements we have in our country. Voting is not just a right, but a responsibility, the one that allows us to shape the future.
I can't make her.
Shape the future we want to see for our communities. In order to exercise that responsibility, however, we need to be able to have faith in our election process. I'm confident in saying that here in Pima County, our elections have been and will continue to be professionally, smoothly, and securely run. As we prepare for the upcoming general election, I think it's important that we assess where things went well and where there are areas for improvement. We all want to ensure that voters in our community feel confident that their vote counts, making sure that voters know where to go, where to find answers to their questions, and that Pima County is doing our best to communicate effectively and thoroughly to every person in our community. I had no hesitation in voting to approve the canvass of the primary election results at our meeting yesterday morning, and I'm glad that my colleagues joined me in voting unanimously to approve those results. Together, we are better, more engaged, and a stronger community. I would like to thank the poll workers, elections and recorder teams, and all of those who cast a ballot in our most recent election for participating in our voting process, contributing to shaping the future of our communities and our country. I do have some things that I think would make the process more voter-centric for our community. And so I will share those comments, I believe, with communications, with the recorders and elections, because I do think that there are ways to make it easier for people to find where to vote. I have some pretty specific suggestions. And so I think that it's to make it easier to find the nearest vote center, particularly via cell phone. But so a lot of the ways that we were trying to get people to the right voting center, those were all done with a website sort of model, which is difficult to navigate when you're on a smartphone. So I think that it would be important to do that. Make early voting sites serve on election day as vote centers whenever possible. I do think that we have some historic polling places in all of our communities. I'm going to use El Rio Neighborhood Center as an example. That has been a polling place forever. People just go there by like memory, right? And so when they get there and there is nothing there and nobody around to sort of direct people, I think that it's important whenever possible, we send information to those historic sites to say, are you looking for the nearest one? Here's the closest one or whatever. And one of the things that I found frustrating for me in trying to help people locate their spot is it was on a page that was not formatted for your cell phone. And then you had to kind of scroll up to look for a vote center. And not everyone knows what that means. So we do because we're talking about it all the time, but people saw it as polling place. So I just think it's like, where can I vote? Or where can I drop off my ballot? Something really simple. And that we generate. What I did like is the system generated 3 of the nearest sites to me based on the address that I put in, but you had to look for that little magnifying. That was hard to, that was not easy to find. And so I think it's like, where can I go vote? And the next screen should be, where are you? Like, what's your address? And then that 3 sites are generated right away. And then I look at them and say, oh, that's the closest one to me. And I can push that. And then it gives me driving directions on how to get there. I just think that we just have to think about what can we do to make it easier. I want to reestablish both an early voting site and a vote center on the University of Arizona campus. I would like us to look at prefer public to typically government or other locations that are sites for vote centers, like neighborhood centers, those kind of things, over private sites, perhaps some of our more secular sites, just because we've limited the number. I'd like to see us make sure that these environments are as welcoming as it can be to everybody. And please don't make the number of the vote center public, like the assigned vote center. So you have them numbered 1 through 26, but a lot of people still equate that with their polling place. And so they're looking for, I used to vote at 346 and you stop at 126. So I understand the need to number the sites, but perhaps if we didn't make that public, then people would just look like, what is your nearest one? And because they don't correlate to precinct numbers and people still are thinking that. Improve the data reporting post-election stuff, just so people can sort of do a deep dive and have it really easy to find. It's information that's available. So I'll send some of these. And then if we can update the Board of Supervisors and other general election voting issues before early ballots are issued. And so I'll be reaching out just to sort of see how much of some of the suggestions that have been brought to me would be easy to implement, not as easy to implement. I will say that the process, once you put your ballot in the mail, and being able to follow your ballot is something that should be a national model. It is really, we're doing a very good job. We're doing a really good job in a lot of areas. I just hope that we all can continue to put our voter hat on and make every process as voter centric as possible, not easier for us. So we can help people. And then if we can send out like, hey, you might, to our city council members, our mayor's offices, all of our offices, these are the hot links on if people have questions, and also the phone number, really easy. I think that would be very helpful. But I'm very confident that the general election will go well. I think that it's just an opportunity for us to look at what went really well, and the vast majority did. None of these issues were catastrophic. Everyone found where they needed to vote. I'm just sort of trying to make it a little bit easier for us lay people to be able to direct people places. Supervisor Hines, did you have a comment or a question? Go ahead, please.
I do, and I just. What disturbs me a bit, having been in multiple elections myself, about calling into question the process, which by and large has gone very, very well in Pima County and most places in this country. If your candidate of choice doesn't win, it doesn't mean the process was flawed or the system was rigged, like our former president likes to say. It doesn't mean we have to go looking for votes. It doesn't mean we have to attack election officials or say that the witnesses were somehow corrupted or stuffing the ballots or whatever. I mean, we have to get over this. I've been through many elections. My first one was 2006. I ran for the legislature. I worked my butt off and I lost, and it was really crappy. No one likes that. But I never once thought to say, I was denied, like someone took my votes away, like it was the ballot was confusing. No. Like I won in 2008, I won in 2010. That was great. I ran for Congress in 12, 16, and in 18. I did not win any of those times. Not once did I think of calling up the recorder and yelling at her or accusing people of anything at all nefarious. This has only been since the former president has been around. If you don't get your way, the system was screwed up and you're being denied. And just cut it out. Stop it. Like, these processes work well. They've worked better than ever. Our last election was the most secure one we've ever had in this country. So I think we just all need to kind of set that sort of talk aside and focus on doing the best we can to make sure counting the votes that are cast by eligible electors and stop framing it like the former president does. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So, and thank you, Director Hargrove, for being here. I think we're going to go to our time certain item of 11. What are we doing? Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to vote on 28 and 29 and then go to time certain of our executive. I'm sorry. Is that right? Okay. All right. So we have a request to address 28. This is the multiple contracts for janitorial services. I really just want to continue to understand why we're not doing this service in-house. This is the same with 27, the same with 29. I'd like to see us do those in-house. So I'm going to have a real issue voting on this. I understand. I think that the people that are providing janitorial services for Pima County do an amazing job. I just would like to see us pull back from contracting out. So, but what is the pleasure of the board on this item?
I'll move approval.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Christie. As I explained, I won't be able to vote on this item because I've been asking for 3-ish years now why we have so many contracts for outside services as opposed to bringing people into what we think is a really amazing place to work in Pima County. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Supervisor Lee.
So Administrator, thank you, Chair Grijalva. Administrator Lesher, at one time, did we have county employees, and when did that change?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Lee, at one time, both the cleaning services and the security services were internal. I'm afraid I don't recall when they shifted. I have asked staff for a full report of what, when they shifted, what were the costs, what would the cost estimate be today, and how can we evaluate the pros and cons of the external versus now. These have, everything that you're looking at today have been external contracts. So we're looking to continue the contracts. And so I would suggest perhaps that we at least continue the contract so that we don't have a loss of service, and we can certainly come back as we look through this first year and see what the cost benefit ratio might be to bring them back internal.
Well, I do have another question.
Yes, please.
Supervisor Grijalva, thank you.
And so Supervisor Lee, then Supervisor Hines.
Okay. Administrator Lesher, if we did approve it, are we able to maybe say we'll approve it for 3 months? Something, because I think what I understand that's very difficult, but I also think that we should have an answer.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Lee, what you have before you today is a contract for an initial 1-year term.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Hines
sorry.
and Supervisor Chris. Did that answer your question, Supervisor Lee? Supervisor Hines.
Yeah, thank you. Do we need a 12-month term, or is this something that we can bring in-house? I suspect we're probably just looking at cost savings, and contracting out means we don't have people on our retirement program, and we don't have to provide healthcare benefits, I'm pretty sure. So I'm sure that's part of the cost savings, but I agree with the chair. I think that's I don't think we should be doing that. So maybe we should do a 3-month term and then work on getting this done a little bit sooner than 12 months from now.
I think just so we're clear on what is on our agenda is it's an additional 1-year annual award, and then it includes 4 1-year renewal options. So my understanding is those options would come back to the board. I do think that basically I'm voting no, because I think that I've asked about it for a long time, and I'm hoping that we would be able to move towards bringing more people under our umbrella as a county employee. I think that it is probably going to be difficult for us at the county to negotiate 3 months. I think that will go very quickly, logistically speaking. While I appreciate, that it's a concern for at least, I think it's a concern for everybody, but at least vocally two of my colleagues here, I do think that if we're going to move forward, I think it makes sense to do a year, and then in the meantime, really get some really hard data from I'm mostly voting no because I've been saying it every year and nothing's changed. So that's why I'm doing it.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
I disagree. I think we should continue to look for opportunities to contract out workers, particularly the janitorial service. It is a huge element of our county operation, and I don't think we want to bring on the added burden of a very large workforce that would be integrated into the payroll of Pima County with all of the issues and the responsibilities that go with it. I think we'd be asking for a lot of problems, and everything has been working just fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I would encourage county administration, particularly with the work shortage and filling vacancies that we've had, that perhaps we should expand our looking out into the private sector to see if there are contractors in many other areas that can do the work more effectively, efficiently, and free up our staff who apparently we're overburdening them with responsibilities anyway. So I'm in favor of continuing this contract. If there's going to be any change to the contract and bringing it in-house, I'd like to see an county administration budget economic report, what the differences are. I don't believe I've seen that yet. So I would hardly recommend that we look for outside contractors and continue this one.
Chair Grijalva.
Supervisor Scott.
I just wanted to ask Administrator Lesher or anybody she may want to designate. It was stated that janitorial services were in the past handled by county employees. And then there was a decision made to contract those services out. I know when I was a school administrator, I worked in one school district that had janitorial services done by staff, and I worked in another school district, actually 2 school districts, where they were contracted out because these were hard to fill positions. And it was difficult to compete with the private sector to get employees for those public sector positions. Why was the decision made? Obviously, it was before the tenure of this board to contract those services out. Maybe we could get some background information on that. If it's not readily available, I think the board would be interested in knowing the history.
Thank you. And Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott, I think it was before my time as well. And so I think the only one here might be Deputy County Administrator DeBonis. I don't want to put him on the spot just for being here a long time. So let us come back and provide you with the full report of what happened, when, and why.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so just to be clear, this is for an initial 1-year term, and then any subsequent year renewals will come back to the board regardless. That's implied in the item. So we have a motion by Supervisor Scott and a second by Supervisor Christie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Oh, item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Hines, or with me voting no. Okay. I'm like, all right, now I voted no? Supervisor Hines voted yes. I voted no. Yeah. I started to say it and I'm like, wait, that was me. Okay. And item number 29, that's the other one you were requesting, correct? Okay. This is to provide shelter cleaning and pet care services. This is my other, why it can't be done in-house. And then some of it is pet care and other is cleaning. And so I don't know if it's all sort of jumbled together, but it's a cumulative contract. It increases the annual award to almost 1.4 million, not to exceed 2.5 million. Yeah. So I understand. I did talk to Director Dangler about why these services were put out because a lot of the employees didn't want to do it. I'm wondering if we're more competitive with with the salaries, that maybe that would be something that could be done in-house. But anyway, so that I have the same issue with this one. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move approval.
Okay. I have a motion by Supervisor Scott and a second by Supervisor Christie. Supervisor Lee, you have a question?
So thank you, Chair Grijalva. Administrator Lesher, I would like to know from this increase of award of 250, if 25,000 of that could be allotted to Ajo that has constantly asked for services in the Ajo area, or even volunteers willing to bring dogs here that have difficult time getting in. So I know I'm being facetious, but I want to make a point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Item passes 4-1 with I voted no. Okay. So those were the two we needed to address here. All right. And now we are several minutes late for the executive session. So can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second. We have items 10, 11, and 2 on the addendum. All right. Okay. We'll be back as soon as we're, I'll go ahead and move the item to go into exec. Oh, we had a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes. It's unanimous. Thank you.